Welcome. Last time I played this was like... Was this back in July I last played? Yeah, it looks like I didn't play this in August. So yeah, it's been a month. Sad stuff happened last time, and hopefully it gets better? I don't know. Honestly, I'm trying my best. Oh yeah, we had to cut off at this sad scene because my mental health was starting to affect me by this game. So, sorry if I can't play this game super long intervals at a time. I might have to take longer breaks with this game because just how closely I relate to the main character emotionally. Like, I don't know. It's one of those things. Whew, alright, I gotta psych myself up. She knew the following words were going to be painful, but how could she continue to sit there, conversing with Lillian without bringing the subject to light? It was inevitable that it would come to the surface eventually, for Samantha had thought of it almost incessantly ever since Christmas. She had been capable of thinking about anything else. I thought it was because I kept bothering you with my troubles that you stopped wanting to talk to me. Samantha sniffed, her body wrecked with sobs. Tears which had once been born from relief and happiness had turned bitter. Lillian watched her impassively, unsure of what to say, what to do, and Lillian did not like being unsure of herself. Should she pat Samantha on the shoulder? But such a friendly, casual gesture, after 3 months of complete silence between the pair, would feel too sudden, too unexpected, and too awkward. Why are we solely in her perspective? We rarely switch perspectives from our main character. Words, then. She would settle for words. Lillian had always been good with those. Oh gosh, didn't I give her, like... I don't remember what voices I gave these characters. I don't think Lillian's was the awful British accent. I think that was other friend. I think hers was kind of like not hoity-toity, but like very grown up and like, I did not stop talking to you because you were depressed. A pause. Not entirely, anyway. What? So, if that isn't the reason, then then what is? I can respond if you like, but I doubt my answer will satisfy you. It's alright. I know I could be quite a difficult person, and very little has satisfied me lately. I have no expectations that this will... Well, I stopped talking to you because it was upsetting me. I upset you? This whole ordeal, This whole ordeal, or my word, why can't I read anymore? This whole ordeal was very upsetting in general, especially given it happened over Christmas. I tried many times to ask you why you were so sad, but even though you gave me answers, they were not answers I could understand. You said that you felt lonely, even though I continued to be by your side, and what more could I have done than that? It seemed no matter how I tried to console you, I would make no difference. I couldn't help. It all began to feel like an exercise in futility, and every time I saw you, it only made me feel worse. That isn't true, you know. What isn't? That you didn't make a difference. Even though you may not have realized it, God knows I was in a bad state back then. I was in no fit mind to tell you this myself. Being with you really did help. Having you by my side, it made me feel like I was wanted, needed, that my existence had some kind of meaning. Hold on. I need the music just to be up a tad bit. Just a tad. I feel like... Okay, I'll probably have to turn it back down later, but... It just felt a little too quiet for me. Okay. Your existence has meaning whether I'm with you or not. You shouldn't base your own self-worth around my opinion. That isn't healthy. Preach. I know. Don't you think I don't know that? I'm well aware. I'm not stupid, Lillian. In fact, I am a person with reasonable intellectual capabilities, which makes me feel even more dejected when I consider just how little I have done with them. I know all the sensible advice you could possibly give me already. Make sure to eat 3 meals a day. Go to bed before 6 in the morning. Don't drink too much. It's bad for you. Sorry. Switch. I forgot to change my display on Streamlabs. That should be good though. I know all that. I know. Then why don't you follow these helpful life lessons? Well, Samantha flinched. I have been trying. With the last point, at least. I do my best. And just how much is your best? I haven't had anything alcoholic in the last 2 months, at least. How old are these girls? They should not be drinking alcohol. Although the self-imposed prohibition was not entirely because of Samantha's own strength of will, but because she had felt too uneasy to ask DeQuincy for any favors lately. They're sneaking in alcohol. Bad girls. Lillian did not need to know that, though. 2 months, Lillian frowned, considering. Suppose that is fairly stringent for you. I'm surprised. It's kind of sad that you expect so little from me. Samantha's hands fisted at the hem of her skirt, tugging the material taut between her fingers. I'm sorry I didn't want to be a disappointment, Lily. Oh, wait. I totally skipped that period right there that I did not see. I'm sorry. I don't want to be a disappointment, Lily. I really have missed you. Not being able to talk to you, spend time with you. It's been hard on me. Really hard. When I saw you again and we started to talk, just talking like this, not about anything in particular, I can't tell you how happy it makes me, even though you might not think it to look at me. There are things in this world not even you can pin down with words. How shocking. I'll take that as a compliment. But I am happy, you know? Happier than I have been in, well, I don't know, for a long while. I can hardly understand it myself, except, you know, when I left my supposed other friend, crying and sobbing my eyes out, but we're gonna ignore that part. Heh. Samantha smiled wanly, her face soaked with tears, and as she shook her head. Well, I hardly understand any of my emotions, but that's beside the point. I don't know if I ever will be able to understand myself, no matter how much soul-searching I do. I was just so happy to see you again, to talk to you. It was overwhelming and slightly scary. It still is. I don't know what came over me, but I couldn't keep it in any longer. And I started to cry. You were crying because you were happy? I suppose so, because I missed you so much. But it is as you said, you don't sound happy. Not to me. If anything, you sound miserable. I am experiencing a strange mixture of emotions. It's hard to describe them. It's hard for me to follow them, too. I'm sorry, Lillian. I know I must be a pain. One of the biggest I know. Lillian frowned, brushing a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. Look, I'm sorry, Sam. This isn't because I don't like you, but... Samantha did not like the sound of that but. Neither did she care for the ominous pause. She stared at Lillian, her eyes wide, her eyelashes trembling. What would she do if Lillian rejected her again? The two had only just begun to reconnect after 3 months of complete silence, and to what end? Was it all going to end here? No, it couldn't. She wouldn't let it. She would drag the mutilated, malformed remains of their relationship out from underneath the rubble that had accumulated over the past 3 months, even if it killed her. She had to. Lily, please. Samantha heard her voice crack, like a teenage boy going through puberty. She sounded pathetic, even to her own ears, but when didn't she? Who cared if she had to beg? She had no self-esteem left to throw away, and would not make a shred of difference to her. Lily, please. Please reconsider. I missed you so much. Don't leave me alone again. I don't think I could stand it. I'm sorry, Samantha, but this is exactly why I stopped talking to you the last time. What do you mean? You're too clingy. You value me far too highly, and though it is somewhat flattering, I don't think it's good for you. You shouldn't obsess over me so much. It makes me uncomfortable, and it makes you unhappy. You're wrong. I'm the happiest it is possible for me to be when I'm with you. I feel miserable when I'm on my own. Utterly miserable. These last 3 months, if I weren't such a coward, I doubt I'd be sitting here right now. I was afraid of that. Is that why you cut all your beautiful hair? Because you felt depressed? That's right. Samantha hung her head, her face flushing. She had told nobody the truth behind her drastic change, but Lillian had guessed it all the same. Lillian knew her far too well. She could read her like a book, perusing through the pages of her heart whenever it suited her. If only Samantha could do the same with Lillian. Even after all the years they had been friends, Samantha still did not understand Lillian at all. I thought about cutting somewhere else, but I didn't have the heart. I couldn't do it. I'm too much of a failure to even kill myself properly. Don't be so ridiculous, Sam. I can't help it. I was born ridiculous, and I can't do anything about it. Lillian sighed. Her expression was still soft, but her tone when next she spoke was stern, like that of a school teacher reprimanding an unruly student. She sounded even more authoritarian than Miss Pope did, which was saying something. This was probably why Lillian had been elected as the head of the student council. It really was impossible to argue with her. Please don't be so defeatist. There is always something you can do. That's true. Being with you always made me happier, but that isn't going to cut it. That isn't a permanent solution, and you know it. I am not always going to be here for you. We are going to graduate next year, and we may never see one another again. What will you do then? I was trying not to think about that. And that is precisely your problem. You never think in the long term. Look, I don't think our friendship is working out. You're far too desperate, and I can't give you what you want. You don't need me, no matter how much you tell yourself you do. What you need is to see a therapist. Again, preach, Lillian. And you could stand to have a healthier sleeping cycle, too. No. This was not how it was supposed to go. This wasn't what she wanted. The main reason Samantha had even gone on this field trip, even though she had been feeling so crushingly miserable lately, it had been an effort simply to drag herself out of bed, was so she could see Lillian. She had hoped dimly in the back of her mind that all was not lost, that they could still fix things, that she could drag the corpse of her relationship with Lillian up out of the wreckage it had been buried under, suffocating slowly these last 3 months. Maybe she had been right. Now, however, Samantha saw quite clearly that it was far too late. She might have had a chance once, but like the fool she was, she had ruined it. She always ruined things. How had she even managed to survive in this world for so long when she threw away each and everything that meant something to her, that she loved and cared about, away to the wind like confetti. Lily, do you really no longer want to be my friend? It isn't that I don't want to. I can't. Can't? No. Dealing with you is too exhausting, and it upsets me, and it's infuriating that you don't even try to get better. I do try. I have been trying, but it's hard. You just don't understand, Lillian. Samantha could feel the tears. They had been threatening to fall for a while now, but she tried to hold them back. You don't know how sick I am. I felt awful for a long time. Longer than I can ever remember. And I don't know what to do anymore. Samantha's words began to break up in her mouth. They no longer felt like they meant anything. Rather than signifying concepts, things Samantha could understand, they were just noise. Empty noise. Words were not enough. Not now. No matter what she said, it would not make any difference. This is rough, man. This is rough. The expression on Lillian's face, a mixture of sympathy, sorrow, and, worst of all, poorly concealed irritation, confirmed it. Lillian was no longer looking at her as an equal, a genuine friend. Instead, she was just a poor soul with a medical condition. Somebody to be pitied, yes, but not respected, certainly not loved. Lillian Wordsworth had never been able to truly love beings she deemed to be inferior to herself. That is precisely why, Sam. I understand you well enough, but I can never know how sick you are. We're just too dissimilar. I think our friendship was a bad idea. I'm not good for you, and you are not good for me. All we do is hurt each other. It would be sensible to bring things to an end before it goes any further. I am not too prideful to admit when I am out of my depth. I can't deal with you anymore. Lily, I... Samantha tried to stem her tears, but it was too late. They began to stream down her cheeks before she knew what was happening, like April rain. Within seconds, she was crying so hard her whole body started to convulse. Her shoulders shook. Her very bones seemed to shake. She could hardly breathe. She could hardly talk. All she could do was cry until she felt her whole body would fall apart, and everything stuffed inside her that made her her would leak out of the seams. If that was the case, then so be it. Let it happen. Samantha was sick of herself, almost as much as Lillian was now was. Oh, that's a pretty background. It took Samantha and Lillian only 10 minutes to reach the youth hostel. Samantha knew if she had tried to find this place on her own, it would have taken her hours and hours. But to Lillian, such a task was simple. Sometimes Samantha wondered if the whole universe reshaped itself underneath Lillian's feet simply to make life easier for her. Lillian was so sensible and self-assured she probably could have oriented herself in the Antarctic, where everything was pure white, not a landmark in sight. The youth hostel itself was a small wooden building, distinctly unremarkable, surrounded by a sprawling field of deep purple heather. The heather swayed in the breeze like ocean waves. Roberta stood amidst these flowers, her hair tumbling in carefully controlled curls around her shoulders. Had she been waiting out here in the cold, with only her cardigan for protection, searching for Samantha? Samantha felt humbled. So Roberta really did care after all, despite the cruel things she had said. Maybe she shouldn't have run away. It was a melodramatic reaction on her part, and had caused Roberta to worry. That much was evident by the pained look on the other girl's face. I wonder how the other girls made their way back, because they were hopelessly lost too. I wonder how they made it back. The moment Roberta saw Samantha walking towards her through the heather, she lifted her head, lips parted. For a few brief moments, a smile flickered across her lips, but this was soon doused by a serious frown. So I see you didn't get lost after all. Well, I did get lost, but I had help. Lillian found me and brought me here. Lillian, huh? It's nice to see you. Roberta gave Lillian a mistrustful glance. Her eyes narrowed slightly, which rather suggested she found Lillian's presence about as nice as having a tooth extracted without anesthetic. Lillian returned the less than cordial greeting with a small nod of her head, her expression unreadable. Pleasure is all mine. It was lucky that Samantha found you. It's nice to know she has a friend who's so reliable. The sarcasm in Roberta's tone was not lost on Lillian, but the older girl did not react. She rarely did. As the head of the student council, it is my duty to ensure the safety of my fellow students. I was simply doing my job, so there is no need to compliment me. Samantha winced at that. Of course, Lillian was just doing her job. That was why she had led the trembling Samantha, lightheaded after crying so hard for so long, to the youth hostel. It was not because they were friends. Not anymore. It was because Lillian was doing her job. Was that all Samantha was to Lillian now? Just another point on her checklist she had to cross off? A minor nuisance that she had to take care of? If so, it hurt. It hurt so much Samantha could hardly stand it. Sam? Roberta looked at Samantha, who must have involuntarily winced at the thought of Lillian. Are you alright, Sam? You look as though you've been crying. It was one thing Lillian knew about and had seen Samantha's embarrassing breakdown, but Roberta, that would be far too humiliating. Oh no, should she tell Roberta what happened? I don't know, fam. I don't know. How many empty slots of this do I got? Like, so many. I don't want to use them all, but like, I'm half tempted because like every choice we've come across, I've just been like, I don't know what to do. Also real quick, I think I gotta move my webcam because I'm like totally blocking Lillian's face. Though it's kind of funny. I can move it down, I think. Hold on. I think I'm gonna do that. So it's just blocking like a bit of the text and nothing else. Okay, that should be good. But also, I still don't know what I'm doing. Oh gosh. Okay. I think. Yeah, it's fine. I think I should tell Roberta what happened. Because I don't want to be like... Because she's effectively my current friend, even though we had like a bad altercation earlier. I feel like we should be truthful. Well, let's see how badly this goes. Well... Samantha looked up at Lillian. The older girl stood there, one hand on her hip, a small frown on her face. Why should Lillian look just the same as ever? When she had just broken Samantha's heart, how could she be so cold? Yeah, that looks better where the cam is. It only blocks a little bit of the text, so it's not a big deal. Maybe she never cared for Samantha at all. She had certainly never cared for Samantha as much as Samantha cared about her. I think that's a lie, and you know it, fam. But you're just upset, so it's understandable. Lillian and I, we had a talk, but Lillian decided that we were incompatible. Incompatible? That's right. Well, at least I know where I stand now. You were right, Roberta. All this time, you were right. It was a fool for not believing you. Samantha, it's just weird that she's still right there, like, yep, you're talking about me. I see and hear everything you're talking about, but whatever. Samantha sniffed, wiping her eyes with the back of her arm. Was she going to cry again? No, not this time. She wouldn't allow it. She didn't want to give Lillian the satisfaction. Not that she truly believed Lillian was cruel enough to derive pleasure from her suffering. Roberta's face softened. It was clear she knew what Samantha meant, even though her words were vague. Oh, Sam, you silly girl. I told you this would happen. I know, but I kept on hoping. Now, I realize I was wrong. Sam, you poor thing. Roberta glared at Lillian. She was slightly shorter than the other girl, but she made up for it with the intensity of contempt in her voice. I hope you're pleased with yourself, Lillian. You just alienated the one person in the world who loves you the most. It was not with malicious intent, I promise you. It was for her own good. Then why did you make her cry so much? How could that be for the greater good? I did it because I care about her. If you keep pandering to her like that, she will not get better. Sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go inform Miss Pope that Samantha and I have returned, as it appears Samantha is in no fit state to tell her herself. Just gonna double check something. Okay. And with that, Lillian brushed past Roberta, her blonde hair fluttering as she exited the room. Roberta stared after her back, her mouth open like a goldfish. It seemed not even Roberta could believe quite how coldly Lillian had blown her off. That girl, I have no idea what you see in her. Samantha wished she could reply in the affirmative, but she could not. Even after everything Lillian had said to her, she still loved her. She loved her more than ever. To insult Lillian when she was no longer in the room and could not defend herself would be a great injustice. Samantha could not do it. She could never have hated Lillian, no matter what, not even if she belittled her feelings or made her cry or even broke her bones. That was how deep Samantha's irrational affections ran. Well, she is very smart, and she's so forthright too. She never tells lies to make other people feel better. She always says exactly what she thinks. Roberta looked Samantha up and down, taking in her bedraggled hair, her puffy eyes, her red cheeks. And is that really such a good thing? I don't know. Maybe. Perhaps people should be hard on me more often, just as you were this morning. I probably deserve it. Roberta winced. She'd been so relieved to see Samantha again, and then so horrified to see just how woe-begone her friend looked, that she had almost forgotten what had transpired between them earlier. She must have looked like a hypocrite, berating Lillian for her coldness, when she herself had been inexcusably cruel to Samantha only an hour or so prior. Look, Sam, I'm sorry about that. Why are you sorry? Weren't you telling the truth? I was, but I should have handled it more delicately. I was being unfair. I apologize. Samantha offered Roberta a small smile. Oh my gosh. Reading skills. It was hesitant, unsteady, as though delivered by a girl who did not know what smiling truly was, but it was a smile all the same. Thank you, Roberta. I'm sorry if I've been taking you for granted. You are a far better friend than I deserve. Aww. At least that was sweet. Oh, those are cute chairs. And suddenly it's super chatty and upbeat. Alright. Chatter filled the air, mingled with the sound of scraping chairs and clinking cutlery, as the students of St. Mary's sat at the long table laid out in the dining room of the hostel. The dining hall was about as extravagant as Samantha had expected. It was a small, cramped space with a sloping ceiling that threatened to collapse in on itself at any moment. The walls were painted white and were warped with old age, buckling under the weight of the ceiling. The floorboards were wooden and squeaked horribly with every single footstep that passed over them, as though they were filled with mice. Samantha looked down at the table, trying to catch Lillian's eye, but the older girl had been steadfastly ignoring her ever since their discussion at the lake. Which is probably for the best, Samantha. This was no different than it had been during the last 3 months, but Lillian's cool demeanor stunned Samantha anew, like salt water in an open wound. It must have been because she had hoped. Samantha had allowed herself to believe that their relationship could still be repaired, and that was why it hurt all the more as she realized it could not. It was too late. Samantha did not want to think about Lillian, though she thought about little else. She wanted to oh my gosh, I almost dropped my phone. Samantha did not want to think about Lillian, though she thought about little else. She wanted to concentrate on something else, anything else. But what was there to focus on?